Right, people, we back. B&V podcast. Me, Rory Spooner, Reese Henley with me again. No James Veck. He is on, should we say, international duty this week in Italy?
We'll call it international duty.
We'll call it international duty.
Or he's just made redundant, whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah, made redundant. Brexit duty, that's what we'll call it. He's out sorting stuff for Boris.
Every time he has an abysmal Fantasy League week, he's just relegated to admin.
Yeah. It's funny how he leaves the country every single time he has an abysmal Fantasy League week. Got his passport ready every other week. So, yeah, shout out to Becky. He'll be back next week. But you got me and Reese going over all the latest news. So, Reese, me and you will kick off with Reguilon, because that was the big news that came out last night. Spurs fans, this one is for you. I guarantee the large majority of you, well, 99% of Spurs fans will be happy with this. I've seen a few comments where a few are a little bit, they're still very unsure about it. But just to add some context to what's going on, Sergio Reguilon is pretty much a Spurs player at this point of recording. He is, well, should we say he's 99% done. I think he's got to have the medical, but everything else is agreed. So just for context purposes, again, it's a fee, Reece, you said, of around 27 million. Is that right? Euros or pounds, give or take?
Yeah, it's around that figure. Obviously, these things can go up and down depending on agents' fees and, signing on fees and all that kind of stuff, add-ons. So obviously, it's going to be in that region. But yeah, it does look to be like something that's gaining a lot of traction. I don't know if I'd quite got it 99% done, because I am Mr. It's not going to happen. But I said about Manchester United, it could happen. I didn't think it would happen. Yeah. I do think it would happen with Spurs. I think before we start going on to the Reguilon thing, I think we're a South Wales-based podcast, so we don't want to be biased. I think we're both big fans of Ben Davies, and I'd love to see him get the game time for Spurs that he does deserve, but obviously he wants and he needs for Wales. But let's be honest, his performances over the last 6 months, I don't think they've been necessarily up to it. I don't think he's been great on international duty, so it may not be the club that's the factor. Perhaps it is just a bad run of form. Perhaps he's just not up to that level. Perhaps it's the players around him. We don't know, but they need to sign a few players now that can elevate them to the top four. And so Reguilon, he is certainly one of those players that can get them there. They have, I think we saw on the weekend, against Everton, they were so stuck going forward.
Yeah,
they would get to a stage with Son on one wing and Bertrand on the other, and they didn't know what to do. Harry Kane, his heat map must have been the most bizarre thing for a centre forward, because he was constantly coming, to the centre circle to get it. I think at one point they were putting a cross into the box, and Harry Kane was about 35 yards out from goal. And I was thinking, how is this a system that's going to work, for him? And I think a good overlapping centre half. I think Doherty, people are saying he had a bad debut, but I don't think he had any chance to shine. He had one or two moments where he did get forward. Ben Davies is not so aggressive a fullback, so it would depend on how Mourinho wants to play. But he is a good player. I said before, when he was linked to Manchester United, he is a player that could be a top four player, no problem. And I think Spurs fans can be very excited, about getting him. You must be spitting feathers as a United fan.
Do you know what? I am and I'm not, because I understand why he turned down United. The Spurs fans I'm assuming Spurs fans are well aware of the deal. For those that aren't aware of the deal, there is a buyback clause. The idea is, within, I think it's a period of 2 years from when Reguilon joined Spurs, Real Madrid can buy him back for, I think it's between 35 to 40 million. So it's essentially a little bit more than what they let him go for, essentially. So they'd have to pay a bit extra to get him back. But the idea is, it suits Reguilon because he's Real Madrid through and through. He's from the academy. He loves Real Madrid. I think part of his thinking was, A, Zidane isn't going to last another 2 or 3 years, which I don't think he will. I think Zidane will be gone over the next 2 years. And B, Marcelo's contract ends in, I think it was June 2022, I read. So immediately when Marcelo leaves, Madrid essentially have a choice. Okay, is Mendy developed enough? No, right, let's bring back Reguilon. Even if Mendy is developed enough, we'll get a second left back in as well. So it suits Madrid, it suits Spurs, it suits Reguilon. Spurs in the short term have a player that is, as you say, Reece, he's easily a top four player. He was the best. He was voted the best left back in La Liga last year. I think he'll come to the Premier League and he'll be a revelation. As a United fan, I am disappointed, but I think he fits in very well with Spurs. It suits everything that he wants. I think you mentioned Reece. I might have been last week, or maybe it was a podcast before about Matt Doherty, and you said he primarily played in a back five at Wolves, and Reguilon played in a back five at Sevilla. So it'd be interesting to see now, and Spurs fans, I want your opinion as well, if Jose Mourinho goes to a back five, because what he could do is play Ben Davies as a left-sided centre-half in a three and have Doherty and Reguilon on either side, which offers a lot of penetration, it offers a lot of width. It does maybe take one of Bergwijn or Son out of the team potentially. But I think he's a great signing, mate. I think he's a good price. In the short term, he'll be a great asset, but Spurs can't count on him for the long term. That's the only issue.
You know, you've touched on, I love talking tactics. You know, that's one thing I really enjoy. On a Saturday afternoon, you can find a beer in hand, armchair, talking tactics with the wall. So I absolutely love it. And what you said there, I think would actually work really well for both Ben Davies and Spurs. I mean, obviously, Ben Davies, snap your hand off. If you told Ben Davies you can have to play in goal, I think he'd say yes, just because he's not going to get any game time, I don't think, ahead of Reguilon. But we know he can play left-sided centre-half. He was brilliant for Wales under Coleman playing in that role. So yeah, I'd be happy to see him there if I was a Spurs fan. I think a lot of Spurs fans have sort of lost the feeling there for Ben Davies, but I think he'd be a success in that role. But they've also got Davinson Sanchez, they've got Alderweireld, and they've got a couple of other centre halves as well. They've got Foyt and Eric Dyer. But if we look at the game on Sunday, the Tottenham game against Everton, Alderweireld, I mean, they took the opportunity last year to sign Alderweireld down as a 30-year-old. He's 31 now, I think, and they've got him on a 3-year contract, earning quite good wages, and they made the decision to let Vertonghen go. I mean, okay, maybe it wasn't a decision that they had to make. Perhaps it was one that Vertonghen forced them into. Yeah. But they signed the wrong guy there, because Alderweireld, I mean, I don't know if it was just the start of the season. Perhaps he wasn't sharp enough. He wasn't international duty. I'm telling you, that man looked like he was stuck in treacle. He was against Calvert-Lewin, who is not the fastest. He's got good turn of pace to him. He's not the fastest, and he was stuck. And Eric Dyer next to him showed absolutely no help at all. I think we both be in agreement by saying Eric Dyer certainly isn't a top 4 player. So Mourinho's got problems from the outset. And I was going to come on this podcast and I was going to say they need to invest. Why haven't they invested? They've signed Højbjerg and Doherty for next to nothing. And Højbjerg didn't work. I think Mourinho tried about 3 or 4 different central midfield partnerships in one game. So they have problems, big problems. But if they can go for 5 at the back, I think I did mention to you, Spooner, you're right. If Doherty can play wing back and then Reguilon plays wing back, then this is really exciting for Spurs. And I'm sure we'll move on to the Gareth Bale news as well. If they can switch that 5-2-1-2, maybe with Son up top with Kane and Bale behind, or Bale up top with Kane, or various different combinations. It also means they can shift one out of the midfield. They have no creative midfielders, so they could just play with 2 solid, Sissoko and they could play with Højbjerg, or they could play with Ndombele.
Ndombele, yeah, nice show.
They don't have a lot of creativity there. So if they were to play with 5 at the back and the creativity comes from the wingers, the wing backs, and the 3 attacking players are all free to be able to cause the defence problems, then that could be a system that would work for Mourinho. We'd have to see.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Going back to Højbjerg, yeah, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not entirely sure what he offers. It's still very up in the air as to what he brings to that Spurs side that the other midfielders didn't already bring. But if you're looking at a back 5 of Matt Doherty, then you would have Davinson Sanchez as a right-sided centre back. You'd have Alderweireld in the middle, Ben Davies the other side of him, and Reguilon. That's a great, it's a great base with Lloris in goals. Gives you a good starting point. You only have to look at how Arsenal changed formation to a 3-4-3, and it's benefited them massively. So Reguilon, I think, again, just to sum it up, great signing in the short term. He'll be gone after 2 years, but to be honest with you, if Spurs get 2 good years out of him and they go where they need to go, it is what it is as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, shout out to him joining Spurs. Spurs fans, let us know your opinion on that. The other big one, Spurs fans, and obviously us as young Welshmen, well, Reece slightly younger than me, the Gareth Bale transfer. Oh wow, Oh, well, that's all I've seen today. That is making news everywhere. So, what's your take on that, Reece? I mean, I think everyone's in agreement that it's the right move. Do you think it's going to eventually go through?
There's speculation, isn't there?
Mm.
Some sources are saying Spurs are in for an outright transfer. Some sources are saying that it's going to be a loan deal where Spurs foot the bill. Some are saying that there's going to be a loan, payment, and Real Madrid are going to cover most of the wages. The account that I believe, and I'm certainly no media expert, but the account that I believe is probably the one where Real Madrid pay the lion's share of the wages, and Spurs pay a set amount to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
I think if you're a Spurs fan, if you're Mourinho, or if you're Daniel Levy, you can't be saying no to Gareth Bale. The Spurs fans wouldn't anyway. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
He's a Spurs legend. He is one of their best ever players, and he wants to come back. And I'm a Newcastle fan. Andy Carroll did it. He had injury problems. He wasn't playing well. He was out of the team, but I welcomed him back because he's familiar and he loved the club, and all supporters love that, and that is transferable. The difference with Gareth Bale is we know how good he can be. He's been frozen out of the Real Madrid team for about 2 years now, unfairly. A lot of people would say unfairly. We know the heights he can hit. We could say the Maicon thing, the Inter Milan night with Spurs is 10 years old now. What's he going to do now? Well, last time he had a run of games in the Real Madrid side, he scored the best Champions League goal of all time in a final where he was brilliant. So he definitely has something to offer. And if Spurs have that kind of caliber of player coming to them, and there's no necessary financial hit or gamble, they can't be saying no. And they have a player out wide, Bertrand. He is a decent player. Lucas Moura is a decent player, but they're not match winners. Harry Kane has shown that he needs the service. Without Eriksen, he's struggled. He's a good player, world class on his day, Harry Kane, but he is struggling. And if you put Gareth Bale next to Kane, next to Son, and the three can interchange, you've got three potentially world-class players there. If Spurs sign him, and it is a big if, I do think it's written in the stars, but it is a big if. If they sign him, don't expect him to play, or at least to be that influential for a month, maybe more. The man has played very limited football. Wales had to sub him off at half-time. He hasn't scored an away goal for Wales since the Euro 2016 qualifying campaign. So this man is not sharp, but we know he is good and he's a terrific athlete. So what I would say is, Spurs fans, you can't say no to him. And when he's fit, he is an animal, and you have to play him, because that man is not just top 4 standard. He's elite club Champions League final standard on his day.
Yeah, no, I agree. Do you know what? I think Bale is a perfect fit for Spurs. Like I said, if they play that 3-4-3 formation, you put him up top with Son and Kane, brilliant fit. Wages might be an issue, but with all due respect to Gareth Bale, he's going to have to come off that high horse if he wants a permanent move. If it's a loan move, Bayern Munich laid the blueprint this summer or last summer. They took Philip Coutinho and they took Ivan Perisic, 2 players that were very unfancied at their teams. And they said, you know what, come to us. What we're going to do is we're going to give you confidence. We're going to make you feel wanted. We're going to, play you in the positions you want to play in. And we're going to try and get the best out of you. And what they said to those 2 players was, come to us, express yourself, and help us be great. And that's exactly what they did. And they went to Bayern Munich and they won a treble. And Bayern got the best out of them because they made them feel wanted. And if Gareth Bale goes to Spurs, and Spurs make him feel wanted, which they will because they all love him, and they find a way to manage his fitness correctly, like you said, Reece, he's a beast. It's a no-brainer. Whether it's a loan move initially with an option to buy might be smart. If you can get him for a knockdown fee and he agrees to have a decent wage, when I say a decent wage, I'm talking, maybe, I don't know, what's 150, 200 grand a week. I don't know if that's maybe beyond Spurs.
He's on £600,000 a week at the moment. Or maybe euros, but he's on close to that figure now. Once you take into account the add-ons and agents' fees and contractual perks and things, so it is unlikely that Spurs will pay a fair portion of that. But one thing Spurs fans can be absolutely sure of is that they're not getting a footballer who, whilst yes, he's got a track record of being, Wales, Golf, Madrid, that kind of bad attitude doesn't sit well with a lot of people. But think about it. He owes Spurs everything. Yes, he worked his ass off to get to Real Madrid, but they made him. They converted him into a winger, and they made him into the world-class player that he is today. He loves the club. He will be doing something that not all players do, and that is playing for the badge, which is, if you're playing for the badge, then you are going to give everything. And he obviously can discover that world-class form, if he is fit, if they can get him fit, and it is a big if. But for me, it'd be a brilliant signing.
Yeah, there's obviously the key elements of it: fitness, wages, desire. I don't think you can question. Like I said, I think he comes there with a man who has a point to prove. I think Bale, the professional, as much as we joke about, Wales, Golf, Madrid, the other day I did question his attitude a little bit, and I was like, okay, he was talking about how he really wanted to get back playing, and I was like, well, come on, bro, you're gonna have to show us something. And I think that Spurs move might just light a fire under him, and he might be like, okay, right, I'm back in a place where I'm comfortable. Let me do my thing, and let me show you the real Gareth Bale.
He's 30 now, and he has been ruined by Zidane. Like what the way he has been with Real Madrid is unprofessional. But also the way that Madrid have treated him and the fans have treated him is almost, it bred that kind of unprofessionalism. So both parties, there is blame on both sides. However, as a result of that, his reputation is in tatters. We can't take a lot of things based on FIFA ratings or on the Xbox game or the PS4 game. But his rating now is down to 79, and that is lower than Yoshinori Mutu of Newcastle United. And whilst that doesn't say a lot, that's probably incorrect, which it is, it just goes to show what the perceived opinion of him and his abilities is now. And I think as somebody who knows how good he is and how much, as Wales fans, we know how good he is, he's going to want to be able to show people, actually, I am that good. It was just Zidane, he was a prick. And if he can do that, then great.
I still don't understand why Zidane hated him so much. Because if you look at James Rodriguez, who played on the weekend as well, James Rodriguez, again, if you take the Bayern Munich blueprint, you get a player in, right? You make him feel comfortable, you make him feel wanted, you say, look, go and express yourself, I have full trust in you. James Rodriguez was the best player on the pitch. He was outstanding. And that could be the exact same thing with Gareth Bale at Spurs. So, Spurs fans, let us know. Gareth Bale, yay or nay? I know the large majority of you are going to say yay. Give us your reasons why it's a yes. Give your reasons why it's a no. And let us know your take on it. We want your opinion. So, yeah, that's Spurs. Looks like some pretty decent business coming their way. Some exciting business for them as well. Moving on to a few other transfer bits and pieces. Aston Villa fans, quick shout out to you. The watch time on the Ollie Watkins video was superb. It had a lot of dislikes because you didn't agree with our opinion, right? And it is what it is. We thought it was an okay signing. Not the best, not the worst. We kind of maybe towards not the best. But, yeah, you smashed the unlike button, so thanks for that. But you did watch loads of it, right? So we can't...
Publicity is good publicity, guys.
All publicity is good publicity, exactly. So, moving forward then, Aston Villa transfers. So, Bertrand Traore, we'll start with him, coming in 17 million. Me and Reece were just speaking about Memphis Depay before we came on. There's a bit of a Lyon fire sale. Lyon are notoriously difficult to negotiate with. Yet Memphis Depay is leaving to go to Barcelona for a relatively small fee, given his stature in football right now. That he's done quite well. And Traore, whilst he's not the most consistent goal scorer, he's a Champions League player. He's a very good player on his day. And he's going for 17 million. So, Reece, your take on Traore to Villa, and be gentle with them this time.
I am going to be gentle with them. I think they didn't necessarily agree with our opinions. I think we were all pretty much in agreement, which is rare on this podcast. So happy to be proved wrong. Ollie Watkins did score in his debut, albeit against Burton Albion, which is, a level that we know he can score goals at, and at least he's proven that, he can be consistent no matter what team he's in. So that's great from the Villa fans. He's got off to a good start, and we wish him well. But with this Bertrand Traore thing, I am quite conflicted, because my gut feeling says that he will bring something to that team that they don't necessarily have. in an attacking sense, which is definitely a big tick box for Aston Villa. My problem is that I have seen this man play for Chelsea, and he wasn't great. He was sort of all legs and no brains. A lot of pace, but didn't really do the right things. That was a time where he was quite young. He didn't manage to get into the Chelsea team an awful lot, and by all accounts, like a lot of Chelsea youngsters, didn't really get the chance he deserved.
Yeah.
The problem is that he's had chances since at other clubs, and he couldn't cut it at Ajax, who, whilst they're better than Villa, the competition that they were playing were worse, and he couldn't cut it at Ajax. He's done better in the French league. He has done better. He's scored about 1 in 4, roughly.
Yeah.
All the signs that I'm seeing are pointing to him being a flop. However, my gut feeling is, because Villa play the way they play and Grealish is able to pick a pass the way that he picks passes, and they'll have Ollie Watkins running in behind as well, the pace that he's going to bring to the side as a wide midfielder rather than an inside forward is going to be incredibly useful to them being a counter-attacking team, which is what they're going to be against a lot of sides. Yeah. So that three of Grealish, Watkins, and Traore, as well as potentially Trezeguet coming in there for some pace as well. It's certainly not something to get super excited about, but it is something you can see scoring enough goals to put Villa in a position where they could stay up. You know, their owners have said they want to be a top 5 team in 5 years. Now, these signings can't do that. But what they can do is stay in the Premier League, you know, regroup, invest, go again. Yeah. And that is something that Villa fans can hope for this season. Don't hope to go top 5. Don't hope to go top 10 with these signings. Hope to finish 17th. If you can finish 17th, then you can invest. You can finish maybe 11th, 12th next season. That's how you implement your 5-year plan.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think survival is key for Villa. I actually like the signings. You know what? I think Traore is a very good football player. He's very underrated. You know, as you said, Reece, he's had spells now at Chelsea. He's had a spell at Ajax. He's had a spell at Lyon. He's pretty well travelled for someone who's 25. And what those clubs will have been are excellent stepping stones. Because you learn an awful lot about yourself and about football. And you do get a very good footballing education at these clubs. So what Traore would have learned on those transferable skills that he's got, I think are to Aston Villa's benefit. So I think for 17 million, I mean, realistically, if you're going to buy an English player like they did Ollie Watkins, it'll probably be double that, or not far off double that. So for someone that's been playing Champions League football and has done damage, he's been a decent little player for Lyon as well. Lyon have, whilst he's not probably one of the key players, he's done well. And I think, like you said, Reece, I'm not sure what he adds yet, because I think time will reveal that. But he definitely gives them something that they were missing. I said the other day about Jack Grealish and Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins is a good finisher. Jack Grealish, he'll facilitate everything in that side. But there's no point buying a gun and having no bullets. I would back Traore to get, 5 to 10 goals in that Villa team. And like you said, Reece, just keep them up. At the end of the day, Villa fans are probably very realistic as well. They know they're not going to be pushing for Champions League football. They know that if they got a top 10, that would be an excellent season. But if they can survive again and just be consistently in the Premier League and build and build and build, there's no reason they can't start to push on. So Traore, for me, an excellent signing. I think he's great. I think he'll add something that they need. And he'll relieve a little bit of pressure off Watkins and Grealish too.
Definitely. And like you said, if you can survive and maybe even push for 13th, 14th, if you can have a season where you are semi-comfortable and you're not making huge errors and you're not getting, dicked all over the place 5-6-0 on occasion, then what it does is it takes the psychological target off your back. People don't come into the season thinking we have to get 3 points at home to Aston Villa. If we don't get 3 points at home to Aston Villa, then that's 3 points missed. And if that psychological target isn't there, then you might pick up a few different away wins. It happened with Swansea. When Swansea first came up, everyone wanted to beat them, and it took them a while. I think it was actually against Aston Villa where they got their first away win. So I think once that target goes, then you can start to lay the foundations and really re-establish yourself as a Premier League club. And that's definitely where they want to go.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Going on to the other Aston Villa signing. So Villa again busy in the transfer market. They have gone and signed Emiliano Martinez from Arsenal. Now, Martinez, as me and Reece discussed earlier on, probably had one of the world's best jobs. He was a second choice goalkeeper, at times even a third choice goalkeeper, which is basically just getting paid to have a gym membership. He travelled for free. All he did was work out, be on the bench every now and then. It's a very no pressure situation. So for 10 years, he was at Arsenal in what we would call a comfort zone. And towards the end, he came out of that comfort zone. And look, he played very, very well. He was an excellent understudy to Leno. Some may even say he should have been first choice. So shout out to him initially for actually coming out of that comfort zone now and going, you know what? I want to be a number one. I want to challenge myself. And I think he's going to be Aston Villa's gain. Again, 16 million for a keeper of his stature. I think it's a pretty decent deal. I don't think you got any. There weren't too many better deals for goalkeepers around if you think about it. What's your take on him?
I don't get this one. I just really don't get the transfer. I think you're right in what you're saying. I looked at Leno's performances last year, and I've looked at Martinez's performances. And for me, if I was Arteta, first of all, I'd have been in the transfer market for a goalkeeper. But second of all, if out of the two of them, I would have picked Martinez. So yeah, he should have been number one for Aston. I find this one a really strange move. The man has been sitting, like you said, with a gym membership for 10 years. And he essentially has been picking up a wage, not having to do any work, waiting for his chance, but really content not to have one. And he's finally bit the bullet here. And he's finally made the move. And he's gone to Aston Villa. And Tom Heaton is their number one. He's injured. Okay, so he will get a few chances. I do think he will be the Villa number one standing. But Tom Heaton will come back. And for me, Tom Heaton is a better goalkeeper than Martinez.
Oh, that's interesting. So,
well, yes, I think. And not only that, I think he should be in England number one. I think he's that good, Tom Heaton. And when he comes back, what happens then? All you've done is relegate Nyland to third choice keeper. Granted, he isn't good enough, really, to even be a second choice Premier League goalkeeper. But all you've done really is add a player to the mix, add a wage bill, spend £16 million of your summer budget on a player who I don't believe will be number one long term. Now,
I'm gonna go against the grain here, Reece. And Aston Villa fans, you may like what I'm gonna say next. I think Martinez is a good signing. I think Martinez is an upgrade on Heaton. I think he showed in an Arsenal shirt his true capabilities, and I think he's an asset. I think they've upgraded with the goalkeeper situation, and I think he might not get them your quote-unquote 12 points or 10 points a season that a goalkeeper gets, but I could easily see Martinez saving them 6 points comfortably. He's a very, very good goalkeeper, and now he's come out of that comfort zone. Again, a bit like Gareth Bale we were saying earlier on, a point to prove. I like it. I think it's good.
Yeah, I mean, look, you are right. He's a good goalkeeper and he's a safe pair of hands. And if you're a team where Villa are, he's a good enough goalkeeper. Absolutely no doubt about it. You've signed a player who is good enough. Problem is, you've already got one in Tom Heaton. That's my view. Yeah. And that £16 million, I would worry, could be directed somewhere else, maybe at right back or left back, which is where they definitely need to strengthen. Or defensive midfield. So it's a strange one, but one thing's for sure from a Villa perspective is that Jack Grealish signing a new contract is massive, and that is the sign of the summer. It doesn't matter if they sign pretty much anyone realistic.
Yeah, excellent segue there, Reece, into Jack Grealish. We'll talk about him as well. So yeah, Grealish for the Villa fans, he signed his new contract. I'll be honest with you, I didn't see Jack Grealish signing a new contract initially. If you told me at the start of the summer, I would have thought Jack Grealish would have gone. But this is pandemic football and, well, options are limited, So Jack Grealish staying at Villa is a huge plus for them. We all know he has the ability to play at a higher level, right? I've been a fan of Grealish for a long time now. He, when he came on in that England game the other day, he transformed the game. I thought he was superb. You look at what he adds to a team, the way Jack Grealish picks up a ball, and he just kind of glides along the pitch. There's not too many people that can pick a pass and dribble with a ball the same way he can and just sort of pick it up from deep. And he kind of just goes past players. And he's a player that I love to watch. And I think once COVID is over, whenever that may be, might be, let's say, another 2 seasons, give or take, I think Villa will struggle to keep him then. I think once cash flow is back in the Premier League, there'll be clubs that are looking to redevelop their midfields in the top 6, and I do think he'll go. I think he would have been a perfect choice for Spurs, but I mean, realistically, with Villa staying up, that price tag would have been too hefty. But Grealish is well equipped to play at a level above Aston Villa. But I mean, he's going to grow with Aston Villa, and who knows what they'll be. I mean, they said they had a FaceTime conversation with him, the owners, and they outlined this, this big plan, and they want him to be at the centre of it. And obviously, that's going to be very sort of alluring for someone like Jack Grealish, because he's Villa through and through. So if you tell him we're going straight to the top and you want to be with us, he's going to be like, yeah, of course I want to be a part of that. But I think as time evolves, and depending on how quickly Villa grow, you may see Grealish leave over the next season or two. But Villa fans, you can enjoy him while he's here.
Yeah, look, with Jack Grealish, everyone knows how good he is. I think we discussed earlier on in the summer that he probably isn't good enough to be a Champions League player as he is. Listening to Gabriel Agbonlahor talk about Jack Grealish, he said that Jack Grealish is the best player he's ever played with. But he also said that Jack Grealish can't get any better than he is. As in, he is that good that he just can't get better when people like Lionel Messi exist. So I don't know how much we can take Agbonlahor as word, but he definitely is a talent. We've all seen it. And he signed a 5-year contract, which I was staggered at. You can look at it from two perspectives as a Villa fan. Jack wants to stay, and even if we go down, he's staying. Okay, that's one perspective, and that could be true because he is a local lad. He loves the team, and from a supporter's perspective, those are the lads you want to keep. The other perspective is he likes the club so much. He loves the club so much. He knows that he's probably better than Villa are right now. If they can progress on that 5-year plan we've been talking about, if they can progress, he knows he's got that 5-year contract so that the club can get a lot of money from him, and the club he supports, the club he loves, are going to get that money for him if he does leave, so they can invest it. So there's those two perspectives which are both positive. Keeping Jack Grealish is the equivalent of them making a 50 million, 60 million pound signing. Because what would likely have happened if Spurs would have wanted him this summer, they'd have probably been told 70 million pounds, probably around that figure.
Yeah. And
Villa would have gone, thank you very much. Let's take the 70 million pounds. Jack Grealish would have gone, I don't really want to leave, but 200 grand, 200 grand, And then Villa would have taken that 70 million pounds and spent 20 of it on a right back from the Algerian league, and they'd have spread all that money around the team like they did when they went up on 7 or 8 different players who just aren't at the quality of Jack Grealish because they can't lure the type of player that Jack Grealish is. The fact that they're a team fighting relegation, they're going to struggle to lure someone of Jack Grealish's quality. So even if they only get 1 more year of Jack Grealish, then that's fine because he's not going to be out of contract and they can cash in on him when the time comes. Yeah. He is so crucial to what they do, to their survival. If you take Jack Grealish out of that team, they're not going to survive. They won't survive. They won't score enough goals. So that is in the conversation as the signing of the summer.
Yeah, he's a great player. I really enjoy Jack Grealish, and I think the people that don't rate him need to just watch a few of his games and see what he really brings to the table, because he's a very good player. Going back to other contract news, Auba has signed the ting, as Piers Morgan tried to get down with the kids and say. So Auba has signed up. I think it was a 3-year contract to 2023. Is that right? The contract from what I saw?
Yeah.
Look, when we talk about Jack Grealish just now, Reece, and how you can't replace him. You could get the transfer fee for him. You can't replace him. It's the same with Arsenal. No matter what they did, it was absolutely essential that this summer they keep Aubameyang, because Arsenal could go back into the market and they could have tried to get X, Y, or Z and offered A, B, and C, right? But they wouldn't have got a striker of Auba's quality. So for him to stay is perfect. We talked about this on a previous video, so if you all want to go back and watch it, you're more than welcome to. But we established really that Aubameyang he didn't really have too many places to go. I was of the opinion that if Messi actually left Barcelona, Auba would have gone to Barca as his replacement. But I mean, we kind of ruled out Germany. We ruled out the rest of the Premier League. Madrid were no, PSG were no, so it kind of left Barca and Arsenal And Barca was, as you said, Reece, before, it was very like hit or miss depending on Messi's situation. So I think it's great for Arsenal. It's an exciting time for Arsenal. They showed on Saturday that, winning away from home against potentially tricky opposition was going to be tough. They're playing beautiful football. They've made some interesting signings. Your take, Reece, on Auba and his new Arsenal deal?
It's huge for Arsenal fans. I think we've said a couple of times just tonight how important it is as a supporter keeping your club, keeping the players that you love. Essentially, it is so important. But he's a real good egg. He's the last home from training, and he's the first in. And those are the type of players that end up being match winners. Those people who put in the extra hours. He's Mr. Arsenal. He's your captain. So keeping him is huge. How many times over the last decade or so have Arsenal sent the message, not just to their fans, but the clubs around them, and even their own players, we can't keep a hold of you. Even when they were in the top four, they were unwilling to stand stubborn against their rivals. They just wanted to cash in on them, and it's just not a model that's worked for them. Arteta's got this new philosophy, looks to be in talking to the board and certainly getting on with them, and they all buy into his philosophy. They are now listening to the fans. The fans said, sign us Aubameyang. They haven't gone out and they haven't spent £60 million on Thomas Partey. They haven't gone out and made any marquee signings. They brought in a few different signings that Mikel Arteta has given a nod to, and Arsenal fans say, if it's good enough for Arteta, it's good enough for us. But sign us Aubameyang. Yeah, that's who we want. We can't come and watch the games yet, but we want Aubameyang. And they said, yeah, okay, no worries. He's our captain. We can't send a message out like we're going to sell our top scorer and our captain. It just can't happen. Let's get him down. And to be fair to Aubameyang, there's not been any stage where he's been messing around with his agent. There's not been any stage where he's been toying with other offers. Yes, Barcelona were interested, but he just said, nope, I love Arsenal. I love being at this club. Henry is my inspiration. I want to be a legend here. And he will be a legend there if he carries on, the way he is. And so Arsenal fans can be absolutely elated with that one. Really elated.
I agree. Arsenal fans already have got their top three now. It's depending on what you like. Obviously, Henry, Ian Wright, and Aubameyang. I'm with you, Reece. I think if Auba had left, Arsenal's season would have just flatlined. You imagine taking the wind out of their sails. Before the first game even started, there would be unrest. It would be toxic. They're like, well, who's going to score the goals now? Because with all due respect, Nketiah is a good player, but he's not necessarily that guy to take them forward. Laka's done okay, but again, would you trust him as much as an Auba? Probably not. So I think Aubameyang, like you said, he's a good egg. He hasn't been petulant. He hasn't acted like a spoiled brat. He's got his head down. He still scored goals. I know he had a few issues at Dortmund previously, and it didn't necessarily end too well for him. But, I mean, what he brings to that Arsenal team in terms of leadership and courage as well, the courage to get on the ball and do something different and make things happen. Like you said, Reece, I don't think Arsenal would have been able to get that in a transfer market this summer. No, I don't. They could have spent 100 million and still not got an Aubameyang that really wants to do it for them.
They'd have the pull factor, definitely. They don't have European football, yes, granted, but I think they definitely would have the pull factor to be able to try and replace him, unlike the Villa situation with Grealish. But whether they would be able to is another thing altogether, because he is proven as one of the best goal scorers in Europe. And on the weekend against Fulham, I watched that game, and Arsenal did look like a team that really is buying into Arteta's philosophy. I looked at their back four. I thought it looked a bit makeshift. I didn't necessarily back them to defend all that well in that game. And in fairness, there were periods in the first half where it did look like they could concede. That being said, they kept a clean sheet and they were able to break teams down with relative ease. I'll come on to how bad Fulham were. But they were able to get those 3 points where previously they might have struggled. They might have conceded a last-minute goal. They might have drawn it 1-1. Not under Arteta. He's starting, ever so slightly, to instill a winning mentality. Now, can they get top four? It's going to be a stretch. However, it's not impossible.
No.
A lot of people would have written them off, and it is not impossible. They're in the conversation. It is early days, and they are joint top of the league. So why can't they? get on a roll, get Aubameyang, get that feel good, philosophy around the club. You go on a roll. They are going to need a bit of luck just because of the strength of their squad. They might need maybe one more signing, maybe 1-2 more signings. I see no reason why they can't at least challenge the top four.
Yeah, my only concern would be if Auba is out, where the goals come from. But if you ask me for a top three, I would say it's obviously, in no sort of particular order, Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea. Man United are going to be struggling to hold on to that fourth position. Spurs, I think, will be just outside the Champions League spots, and Mourinho might not make the end of the season. So logically, that leaves Arsenal. So if Arsenal can keep Aubameyang fit and scoring goals, no reason they can't challenge, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think one thing that did come out of that match. I mean, I could sit here all day and say I was impressed with Arsenal because they did play well. Willian specifically was unbelievable. 3 assists on your debut doesn't get much better. We talked about him as being an okay signing. A gamble looks to be paying off. Looks to be that Arteta is signing the right players, not the big names, and that is the way to go. That is the way to go. So big things to be excited for, and I could go on about them for a while, like I said, but let's turn our attention to Fulham. I mean, they were so bad. They went down in 2018 because they were dreadful. 2019, I think they went down. And they went down because they were dreadful in defence. They were awful. They had a back four, I think, of Dennis Odoi, Tim Ream. I think they had Sessegnon at the time. But even he couldn't get into their Premier League squad. They had Joe Bryan, I think, and one more. And they went down because they were dreadful. They really, really were awful. And they've had a season in the Championship where they've done well and they've got promoted by the playoffs. And they've come up, they put basically the most identical back four. Yeah. And they are still awful. Surprise, surprise. I really, really think they're going to struggle this season. Really struggle. I think they could go down 20th place. Absolutely no problem about it. West Brom really not far behind.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. In life, you have to learn from your mistakes. And if you don't, you're going to get punished over and over and over again. I'm right in thinking, to the best of my knowledge, Mitrovic didn't start either, did he? No, which was a bit of a strange one. I don't know if he's carrying maybe an injury or there was some sort of issue there. But yeah, Mitrovic needs to be firing for them to stay up. Going back to just signings very quickly, because he was man of the match, and I just wanted to touch upon him because there was such a big sort of scramble for him. Was Gabriel? How do you think he did on the weekend? Well,
look, like I said, in moments they were shaky. Rob Holding for me isn't a defender's cousin. I think he's really not good enough. If you ask me, he's not good enough for any Premier League club. I really don't rate him at all. But they got the clean sheet. Look, Gabriel was leading them. He was leading them, and it's good to see. He's not an old guy. He's not all that experienced, but he came in and they kept a clean sheet and they did okay. They did well. Tierney dropped in as a centre half as well, which is out of position for him, and Maitland-Niles was a left wing back, again out of position. So it was very much a shift, but I think that there's a little bit of confidence in there in people like Gabriel, and that is huge because I think at points last season, you'd look at David Luiz and depending on what mood he was in, you'd either avoid him as a centre-forward or you'd go as close to him as you could possibly get because he's going to do something bizarre and you'll get a goal from it. So to have that kind of confidence, it's big for Arsenal fans, and it was an ideal first game for them.
It was an interesting weekend of fixtures. We're all happy to have it back. The standout game, we've got to give a shout out to Bielsa Boys because he follows us on his YouTube page, and I know Leeds fans love our videos. They love interacting with us. So quick shout out to Leeds. It was a hell of a game. And one of the big questions that came from that game, I want your opinion on it, and social media was up in arms. Has Virgil van Dijk peaked?
Oh, look, no, he made an error. I think when you've been playing at the level at which he's been playing for such a consistent, such a prolonged period of time, when you do something, when you mess up, it's going to look extremely bad. And yes, it did lead to a goal, and yes, it was a bad error. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Virgil van Dijk is world class, and he is playing against Joe Gomez, who's still learning. Now, they're also playing against the Bielsa press, which Leeds friends of mine have been waxing lyrical about. But it's a different kind of press. It's something that they're not used to. And also, Fabinho didn't play in that first half when they conceded. I think 2 or 3 of those goals were conceded in the first half. So let's not get too carried away about how bad Liverpool are. I do think they're going to be more shaky this year, just because it's not really possible to maintain that level of defence over such a prolonged period of time. There's going to be a bounce back. There's going to be a swing, and they're going to concede more goals. I did say before the season started, we can expect other teams to be close to Liverpool. They're going to drop off. Teams are going to improve. The gap's going to close. Fabinho only played one half, or less than one half of that game. And they are missing one in midfield, you'd say, probably Thiago. They really need to get somebody in. I think that's the area they need to strengthen. And I don't think they're getting much up front from Roberto Firmino. So I don't think we can say Virgil van Dijk's past it. I think that would be discrediting somebody who finished, I think, 5th in the Ballon d'Or. It would be incredibly reactive to suggest that he is, losing it. So, no, for me, I think it was an impressive Leeds performance, but it was typical Leeds in that they played well and they tried, but ultimately they fell away at the end, which is typical Leeds, really. But out of the 3 teams that went up, you'd have to say Leeds are the only ones that actually gave it a go, which is good.
Yeah, I don't know how well Rodrigo's English is, but he probably it's best that he doesn't know a lot of English, maybe depending on his Bolton time, because what he did was, oh mate, honestly, if I was a Leeds player, I'd have filled him in the changing room afterwards. I was like, bro, what have you done? Oh mate, it was, they call it a striker's tackle. Stevie Wonder could have put in a better tackle than that. A blind man could have put in a better tackle than that. It was so bad. I watched it back and I was just like, what were you thinking? It was generally so bad.
Well, yes. I mean, strikers that really aren't famed for their tackling, are they? But he didn't get sent off. And look, I think we can focus on elements like that. But that kind of intensity, that's what Bielsa's bring to the Premier League: the press, the intensity, the attacking intent. So I would be encouraged if I was a Leeds fan. Ultimately, before the season starts, you look at trips to Anfield as 0 points. They got 0 points and they can regroup, they can move on, but they can be encouraged. They can think, we nearly did them. So if we're coming up against, a club like Villa or Crystal Palace or something like that, we can do them. We're on their level now. So very encouraging, especially when you compare with the performances of West Brom, who lost 3-0 at home, and you compare with the performance of Fulham, who lost 3-0 at home, and really neither actually troubled the opposition goalkeepers too much. I would definitely take a lot of encouragement from that, for sure.
Speaking of encouraging signs, you came on this podcast maybe last week or the week before last, and there was a term, bin dipping signings, and there was a man with a point to prove, a certain Jeff Hendrick, who came out and absolutely scored a belter and immediately stuck a middle finger up to the camera, insulting Reece Henley. And look, I don't think anybody was expecting it, and we won't gloss over it. We'll give him a little bit of shine. Pretty impressive, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't see the middle finger myself. I think that might have been more in your head than anything else. I didn't see the goal. I was too busy watching pigs fly. Yeah. But with Jeff Hendrick, look, the Newcastle performance aside, Jeff Hendrick was poor. I thought he was poor. And then he scored a very good goal to wrap the game up. So where are you? If he plays poor and then gets a goal every week, then, that's still 38 games playing terrible every game. So 38 goals playing terrible every game. So where are you? Personally, for me, won't get into that side much when Ryan Fraser is available, who again scored on his debut last night, as well as Miguel Almiron and others. So from a Newcastle perspective, they got a debut goal for Callum Wilson, who I thought was bright. He was their biggest attacking threat. That signing seems to have worked. Andy Carroll lasted 88 minutes unscathed and played really well, which is good signs for Newcastle still. And crucially, they got an away 3 points, which is always a brilliant way to start the season. especially when you're in a position that Newcastle are. They're not going to get Europe, so they need 40 points. Well, they've got 3 with Brighton, I think, this weekend. So definitely encouraging signs. However, I don't think they played that well. I watched the game, as you can imagine, and I wasn't impressed. There were large parts of the game where I thought no one's actually taking the game by the scruff. West Ham were incredibly poor, and they were there for the taking. And Newcastle kind of just were happy to just not push it at all. And they did come out and play second half as the away team usually does. So there's a bit of that in there, but I thought Newcastle they lacked that kind of attacking edge or ruthlessness. So from a West Ham perspective, they were poor. I mean, they were really poor. That defence looks now like it needs huge investment. They haven't invested in their team. They've made Souček permanent, who he's a decent player, but he's not the player that's going to elevate them. They narrowly avoided relegation last year after lockdown ended, and David Moyes is not the type of manager that you could say is going to pull them through a season. West Ham fans, be worried. We didn't actually include them in our contenders to go down, but my word, their squad is poor. Their team is poor. It's not quite as poor as the favourites to go down, granted, but their performances were. That performance was dreadful. If you're getting beaten 2-0 at home to Newcastle, then that's a problem. That is a problem. And they could bounce back this weekend. They could get a big 3 points, but West Ham, they were poor.
Yeah, interesting. Obviously, just a few other takes. Obviously, good win for Crystal Palace on the weekend. Good win for Wolves. Good win for Leicester. We kind of touched upon Everton as well. Just going on to Chelsea very quickly, because obviously we made such a hoopla about their signings. I found it really interesting, really interesting that Lampard didn't put any trust in Hudson-Odoi to start that game against Brighton, because that Chelsea team was so congested. You had, who was it? So it was Kante, Jorginho, you had Loftus-Cheek, you had Mount, you had Havertz, all in the same side. And to a degree, it'll work against the smaller sides. But I think when you're playing against certain teams now, especially in the Premier League, you need a little bit of width. And I don't know how Lampard's going to incorporate everybody. It's going to be really, really interesting. What did you think of the Chelsea? Well, I say the new Chelsea signings, the Havertz in particular, mate. What did you think?
Yeah, I'll come on to Havertz. Just a note on what you said there, but the width. I think when everyone is fit, which won't be that long, I think Hakim Ziyech will provide width on one side, and we know that Pulisic will definitely provide width on the other. The 2 debutants in this game being Timo Werner and Kai Havertz. The Chelsea game's actually an interesting one because there's actually a few elements to unpack. I didn't think Brighton were too bad. I thought Tariq Lamptey at right back had a really good game. He's a very, very decent young player, and I think he's on loan from Chelsea. I think so. He's a very, very good player. With Kai Havertz, he probably had as bad a debut as it's possible to have. He really, really was dreadful, extremely bad. All that being said, I think he was being played out of position. He was being played as a right midfielder predominantly, and he is a central player. He was playing centre forward at the end for Bayer Leverkusen. And if he's not playing centre forward, then you're going to have to play him as a 10. So don't buy a Ferrari and drive it as a Fiat, So definitely, I'm not trying to make excuses because the man was missing key, really easy passes, which I'm sure, given that chance, he wouldn't have misplaced any of them again. But Werner, on the other hand, I thought he looked really sharp. The chances he did have, I thought he had a really good turn of pace, looked on his toes, looked alive, looked like he wanted it, and was willing to run, which is good news for Chelsea with that front four. They were unable to play Ben Chilwell, unable to play Thiago Silva. So definitely it was a team that it's not going to be the team that plays week in, week out. So for Lampard to go away to Brighton and get 3 points, which is a team you'd expect them to beat, but to get 3 points early doors, with that team out, with Kai Havertz having an absolute nightmare, that's not a bad performance. Without Pulisic, Ziyech, without Thiago Silva, Chilwell, for me, yeah, it is a good performance. That being said, I think was it even last week that we had a discussion about Kepa? Was it even last week?
No,
the guy just. I have never known a goalkeeper to be so afraid of a football. I have run out of words at this point. I want to get your view on it, because I think I went in on him last week and I've gone in on him before. And you guys have been fairly reserved. Tell me, am I wrong?
You're not wrong. And then I know you and him, as we say, you've got your personal issues that go back and forth. Right? So yeah, I know you two don't like each other. So I'll come from maybe a more neutral perspective. I'm with you. Kepa, when he came, the price tag was so overinflated, right? That was Chelsea. Whoever signed off on that deal, Chelsea are generally quite good in the transfer market, right? As they've shown, they're quite proactive. They generally get pretty good deals for players that are coming in and pretty good deals for players that are going out. That one they kind of missed the mark with, and that's me being gentle. They probably paid, when I say they overpaid, they probably paid double what he was worth. Maybe, you know what I mean? I'm being generous there as well. He, I don't know, mate. He really lacks confidence right now, and a change of scenery would do him the world of good. I think Kepa's at the stage now where he knows his manager doesn't believe in him. And I think he knows his teammates don't believe in him either. And I think he's literally going through the motions. I've been in work, right, in jobs where I've gone through the motions, where I know my time at that job is coming to an end. And I get the impression now that Kepa knows his time at Chelsea is coming to an end, or it's going to be significantly reduced, because Mendy is due to come in at any point. And Chelsea aren't buying Mendy to be number 2. They're buying him to be number 1. And I think Kepa's people would have made him aware of that. I think his family and friends would have made him aware of that. And I think that is now going to impact on his game to a point where he was playing bad, but he's only going to get worse now because that confidence is gone. And I think he needs a change of scenery. I do. But I mean, who is going to pay that much money for him given his current form?
Yeah, I think you'd be, like I said, you are being gentle. You think he needs a change of scenery. I think he needs a change of profession. But I think one thing that we can agree on is that he definitely needs to go, and Chelsea need a new goalkeeper, like we said last week. But yeah, definitely one coming in, I think.
You're not wrong, mate. I think that's the weekend roundup, at least. I don't think there's any other games, unless there's any other sort of special highlights you want to touch upon.
No, absolutely not. We're all good.
No, we're all good. Okay, FPL. Right. Okay, FPL. Well, wasn't that a surprise? Wasn't that a surprise? Now, going to number 1 in FPL, we have Gerald Henley, the Scarlet Raiders, 91 points. Reese. Now, I'm called making up the numbers for a reason, because I'm there predominantly to make up the numbers, right? So I have very limited expectations of this. Usually after game week 1, I kind of just stop playing, but you and Becky have baited me into it, so I'm going to actually try a little bit this year. Your old man is top. He's doing fair play to the guy, right? He's doing well. There's serious competition in this league. I mean, just going through it all. Illerjan Seymour, bro, I don't know who you are, but thank you for participating. If you're in this league and you are doing well, feel free to tweet us. Like Ari Ngahara, I don't know again if I'm pronouncing your name right, bro, but again, you're doing well. Let's have a look at our standings very quickly. So, Reese, you're third. Becky is, where is Becky on this?
Scrolling down. Keep scrolling down, and then eventually you'll find him.
This is why he took the passport to Italy, bro. Because he's not with it. I can't even see Becky's name.
Last I checked, he was 40th out of 30, so I'm not sure.
Well, I'm 29th, right? So I'm quite content with that because I'm not bottom, but it's all to play for. So what me and Reese were talking about before we came on as well is whoever wins the V&V league, if it isn't me, Reese, or Becky, we might do it for whoever comes second if one of us comes top. But basically, if you win it ahead of us, you will be invited on to talk football with us for a whole episode. So that is the prize. You'll get to start your YouTube career with us. And, our subscriber count is going up all the time. So if you're already part of a platform, it's a chance to enhance your platform. And if you're looking to start a platform, excellent way to start. So, Reese, moving forward, game week 2 coming up. What tips have you got for the people, seeing as you and your old man are such legends at this?
Well, Henry Senior's had a good start, hasn't he? But we just don't know what's going to happen. There's a few different people in our league from a few different backgrounds, and anything can happen. I think one thing that me and Vex we were talking about he said that his top tip for this game weekend is to get your Man United players in, or your Man City players in. And well, let's be honest, the guy is mid-table at best at the moment. So I think I'm going to disagree with him, and I'm going to say that hold off is my tip for this weekend. Hold off on your Man United players. Hold off on your Man City players. I think two of the players that present really great value for money in the league are Mahrez and Greenwood, both of which are ineligible, but unlikely to play due to COVID and lockdown fears and things like that. We all know what's going on with Greenwood. Aside from that, you might be looking at Fernandes, you might be looking at Martial, you might be looking at Aguero, De Bruyne. Look, they could get points. We all know Man United could get a penalty, and Fernandes could get.
Will get a penalty if Fernandes
will get a penalty and could score. But look, they've got Crystal Palace at home, so we're looking at here. There are some points available, but Man United's next few fixtures, they're not so kind. They're away in their game after that, and I think they've got Spurs and Chelsea to come as well. So they have a run of games which isn't so kind. And likewise, Man City also have a couple of potential banana skins and also have tough games. So is it the right time to put them in? In my opinion, no, it isn't. But the time will come. So definitely keep your budget for them. Some good ones for this weekend, I think. If you're looking at a budget player, Callum Wilson could be good. They're home to Brighton. He's made a good start. I think myself and Becky were talking. Ryan Brewster looks like he's going to be sealing a move to Sheffield United. He's $4.5 million. Might be good to get a transfer in now for $4.5 million and get that budget ready for a couple of weeks' time when you can't afford Greenwood, you can't afford Fernandes or De Bruyne. Just make sure you're setting yourself up for in 2 or 3 weeks' time when you know what players are going to be in what managers' plans. There's going to be a lot of chopping and changing. If you saw a player that you didn't necessarily expect to start last week, don't think he's going to be the number one left back or the number one central midfielder striker for the season, because we know that those things go out the window right at the start. You need to look 4 or 5 weeks who's been playing consistently. So definitely this game week, do bear that in mind. Still have one eye on your budget. You might want to not make any transfers at all. And save 2 transfers to get a Man City and a Man United player in game week 3 or 4. So just bear those things in mind.
Yeah, I went Tielemans instead of Harvey Barnes, and I instantly regretted. I have buyer's remorse. But I'm banking it now. Tielemans this weekend against Burnley. I'm too loyal, Reece, and I'm too faithful. That's what it is. And I think that these guys that I put in, I'm going to have to start listening to you and Becky a little bit now, because I kind of go with my heart, and my head tells me other stuff. And I should have gone with Harvey Barnes. But look, that's on me. That's why I'm making up the numbers, right? So don't take any advice off of me. If you watch these videos, tweet Becky, tweet Reece, get in touch with them via Instagram. They will give you tips. Don't ask me. I am not that guy.
Yeah, definitely. I think my transfer for the week was Jamal Lewis. He's gone in as a Newcastle player. They're home to Brighton. It's a fair shout. It's a clean sheet. And the guy I took out, Ruben Vinagre, he looks like he's not so much in the manager's plans. Like I said, don't put someone in because they've played. But if they've been omitted, then it might be time to think about taking them out.
Very interesting. FPL, we're all over it. So remember, get in touch with us on Twitter, IG. In the comments for the FPL videos as well. Is it too late for them to join the league, Reece, or can they still join?
They can still join. You can join at any part of the season, but the points from last game week won't count.
Interesting. Well, I'll make sure to put obviously the FPL stuff in the description so you can all keep joining. Like I said, big prize. The winner gets to come on with us and talk football. So if you have a team, let us know. You're more than welcome to join. Anything else, Reece, while we're here? Is there anything you want to touch on?
So, as you guys know, I've been heading up the IG socials. I've been trying to engage with as many of you as possible. Just having little chats about football here and there. And I've had a few questions. And I've had a couple of interesting questions from one of our followers, Farquhar Templeton. So I said I'd give him a shout on this podcast because the questions were interesting. So I want to put them to you, Spooner, just see what you think of them. And perhaps I'll give my input then. One of the questions was, do you think Liverpool can sustain their performance over the past 2 years, or do you think they'll burn out?
Yes, I do. I do think they can sustain it. I think, like you said earlier on, the Van Dijk hoopla, where a lot of people were saying he's peaked. I don't think Van Dijk can get any better. but I don't think he's going to get worse, if that makes sense. I had this conversation on the podcast a while back. Most top teams, when you look at real top teams, they'll have a lifespan of around 5 to 6 years, and they'll have a sort of a core group of players that they bring in over time, and they all grow with each other, and they'll reach that 5 or 6 year period, and then obviously, there'll be a rebuilding process, and you'll have to recycle and start again. Liverpool are about halfway through that process, maybe, give or take. And I do think that Liverpool team have another 2 or 3 years left in them. It'll be interesting this season to see if Liverpool really go on and win things. Because the one thing I will say is about Liverpool, hunger is a big thing. And what you'll find is if Liverpool win a Premier League again, or if Liverpool win a Champions League again, a lot of those Liverpool players that are there, for example, Mane, a Salah, maybe even a Van Dijk. I think Van Dijk's quite happy though. But for example, Salah and Mane now, what they'll do is if they win a Champions League or Premier League, they will look at that Liverpool team and go, okay, what else can we do now at this club? Is it time for one last big challenge? Because Madrid will come knocking in the summer. They're going to look to start, investing again, depending on what happens with COVID. Messi will, depending on what happens with his situation, he might not be at Barca. So again, doors will open. So I think Liverpool now, depending on how they do, and I think they will do very well, FYI, Liverpool fans, I'm fully confident that they'll at least be in the top 2 minimum. I do think they'll go on and win it. But if Liverpool now maintain that sort of speed and that sort of transition to the top that they've had, I think potentially you might see a little bit of a breakup of that Liverpool squad maybe over the next year or 18 months. But to answer the question, I think they're full speed ahead. I think they can certainly maintain it.
Yeah, look, Chelsea-Liverpool is the game this weekend. That's the one to watch, Farquhar. If Liverpool can blow away Chelsea, then this conversation is a lot different. But look, Liverpool have been playing up there for about 2 years, and they've been exceptional. And to get up there is not easy, but it's not sustainable. To play at that level is never sustainable. Because there is always going to be adversity. There's always going to be things that happen which force them to play at a lower level. But also, just the odds of them never losing a game or losing one game every calendar year, it's low. The question is, they were playing there. Everyone else was playing there. They're probably going to come down to around there. But can those other teams go from there to there? And I'm not sure that they can. So the question is not really, can they sustain it? But will they be caught? I don't think they'll be caught. The other question for you from Farquhar was, what newly promoted team do you think will emulate Wolves and Sheffield United? Or do you think there won't be one?
No, I think Leeds. I think I've seen enough in that game to know that Leeds are going to be a threat. Like you said, they will have come away from that game and they will have looked at it and gone, okay, we really can mix it with the big boys. And it's a big if, fans start to come into the stadium, even if it's maybe only 8,000 to 10,000 fans, Ellen Road will be it'll be a tough place to go. Even without fans, right? It's going to be a tough place to go because they've got a very good manager now, and I think Leeds, like you said, Reece, will have looked at that game and gone, okay, we can mix it now with the big boys. We don't really need to fear a West Brom or Fulham because we know we were better than them last season. We can go to a West Ham, we can go to a Crystal Palace, and we know we can take chunks out of them. So I think Leeds will be very confident doing it. I think West Brom and Fulham, they might have a little bit of anxiety going away to some of these bigger teams because they know they're going to get pumped. And I don't know if they'd be that confident going to the teams around them now. So I think Leeds can certainly emulate it, to answer Farquhar's question, yeah.
I don't know, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think, look, Leeds fans have got a lot to be excited about. Without investment, they can't do much, in my opinion. That squad is poor. Without Bielsa and the philosophy he's put into the Bielsa press, for me, they're going to lose a lot of games. The fact that they've got this manager and the team spirit that they've got and the way in which they play will only carry them so far. Mm-hmm. Now, yes, you can use the same example for Sheffield United, but these tend to be isolated cases. If it was the case where all it took was the right attitude and the right manager, then Huddersfield would have gone on to be brilliant, and they weren't. They struggled past Christmas of their first year. They got relegated the second year. I think Leeds will struggle. I don't think they'll go down. I think they'll do enough that their fans can be really happy with their season. But I would say don't expect them to be finishing top 6, top 7, top 8 like Sheffield did. Just be happy with what you get as long as there's not relegation. Be happy with being back in the Premier League, going toe-to-toe with the big boys, and then building on it second season. but I don't think anyone is going to emulate Sheffield and Wolves this season.
Luck is a factor in it, so we'll see. Like, time will reveal all, time will reveal all. I think with a little bit of luck and, a bit of consistency, you can go on and do wonders, not just in football, but in life in general. But yeah, shout out to Farquad for the question as well. He got in touch with us on IG, and anybody else that wants to get in touch with us, whether it's IG or Twitter or in the comments, leave us questions and we'll try and answer them as best we can. Was there another one you said, Reece, as well, from someone else?
No, that's all we got for this week that I picked out. I think we're out of time anyway, so I think we'll feature some more guys next week.
We will indeed. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Obviously, liking the video is every bit as important as subscribing. The more you like it, the more it goes into the algorithm, the more it gets seen by different people. And I guess, with so many other bigger channels and bigger football videos. So yeah, smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe as well. Obviously, hit the notification bell when we put content out. You will be the first to know. And yeah, again, big shout out to everybody that subscribed to us. We're over 300 YouTube subscribers, about to touch 30,000 views, and the IG is absolutely flying as well. So me and Reece will be back next time. Becky will be back with us too, and we'll keep you posted on developments as we go along, people. So thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time. Ciao.